The terrifying tale of how an heir to the billion-dollar Getty fortune was kidnapped and then held captive for 5 months has been brought to the big screen by Ridley Scott in the new film All the Money in the World. J. Paul Getty III was just 16 years old and living in Italy when members of the Italian Mafia grabbed him off the street on July 10, 1973 as he returned home from a night out with friends. He was thrown in the back of the van and taken 300 miles south to the mountains of Calabria, with his captor soon informing the teenager's family that the boy would be safely returned after they paid a $17 million ransom. The boy's mother, Gail Harris, and father, J. Paul Getty Jr., had been cut off from the family fortune, and so they asked J. P. Getty if he would be willing to cover the amount of money demanded by the kidnappers. At the time, J. Paul Getty was worth a little less than $2 billion, making him not only the richest man in the world but also the wealthiest man in history. That is when the already shocking incident took the most bizarre twist of all, with J. Paul Getty refusing to pay the ransom money. Scroll down for videos. Earless Heir, All the Money in the World tells true story of the 1973 kidnapping of John Paul Getty III, above in December 1973 with his mother Gail just after his release, who was held captive for 5 months by members of the Mafia. Hard no, the boy's grandfather J. Paul Getty was worth close to $2 billion thanks to his oil fortune at the time, but refused to pay any ransom. Dismissed. The Gettys and Italian police believed that the boy was faking the kidnapping to get money because he and Gail were cut off from the family fortune, Christopher Plummer as J. Paul Getty and Mark Wahlberg as a former CIA operative in Money Above. J. Paul Getty said at the time that if he agreed to the demand made by the kidnappers for the return of his grandson, there was nothing to stop financially motivated individuals from abducting his other grandchildren. If I pay 1 penny now, I'll have 14 kidnapped grandchildren, he told reporters at the time. He was known at the time as much for his oil fortune as for his frugality, and some believed at first that J. Paul Getty III may have staged the entire kidnapping to get money from his grandfather. J. Paul Getty Jr. had been cut off after his drug addiction led to him leaving the family business and wife Gail, who was quickly cast aside by the Getty family. It was Gail, however, who pushed back on her former father-in-law, and used the press to launch subtle attacks that eventually shamed the man into paying the ransom. That took 4 months, however, and after the kidnappers showed just how far they were willing to take the negotiations. A package was delivered on November with a note that read, "This is Paul's ear. If we don't get some money within 10 days, then the other ear will arrive. In other words, he will arrive in little bits." Inside was the teenager's ear, and a request for $3.2 million if the family wanted to see him come home safe and not returned in little bits. This forced J. Paul Getty to the negotiating table, and he agreed to pay $2.2 million for the return of his grandson while loaning an additional $700,000 to his son, which would have to be paid back with interest.